Okay, I think we're 2 minutes into our time and other colleagues can join at any point. So I think we'll start. Very pleased to see everyone today. Welcome to our monthly Community of Practice meeting. Today, our speaker is Christian Werner. He's going to be talking to us about population improvement and breakthrough products. I think several teams do know Christian now. He's one of our quantitative geneticists on our team at Accelerated Breeding. He's been with us for a couple of years now. And today he's kindly agreed to make this presentation. This is a new term, and we want to make sure that we are all on the same page as we move forward, serving our clients, collective clients. So at this moment, I'd like to invite Christian. Christian, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you, Dorcas. Hello, everyone. Glad to see that there's already a decent number of people here and that the number is still increasing. So welcome. Some of you might have seen this advertisement, maybe on LinkedIn, maybe on the CGIAR blog websites, maybe on email. I don't know. I put this up because you can see here that the title is saying population improvement, the driving force behind breakthrough products, question mark. Now, this question mark is it's a remainder from a working title, and actually I tried to not have a question mark there, actually as exclamation marks. So the title is Population Improvement, the driving force behind breakthrough products, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, because it's not a question, it's a statement I would like to make today. Give me a second and I'll put the laser point on. Also, Dorcas, are you recording? Do you want to record?
Julie is recording, yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So this is the statement I would like to make today, that sustainable development of breakthrough products is not possible without constant and efficient population improvement. And it is still, and it will remain, an important component of our breeding programs. So again, this is my main message, and we could probably stop here because everything is said. But obviously, I'd like to give you a bit more of an idea why this is the case, why it still is important, a bit more of a background, and well, give you later time to ask questions. So nevertheless, I understand that the Gates Foundation's call for breakthrough products has caused, well, some uncertainty, some open questions, maybe a lot of questions in a lot of teams. And one of these questions may be if we still do need population improvement and all those optimization steps, all those optimization tasks that, well, that you have been asked to follow in the past, that have been the focus of EIB's, ABI's, now B4T's work. And well, the short answer is yes, but I'd like to discuss that with you today. Discuss with you that the request for those breakthrough products has not really changed anything about the way we work or the way we should work and the way we should do breeding. And that I believe it's just a logical consequence of the improvements we have focused on in the past. Whatever has changed is what came with these breakthrough products, very tight timelines, and that the changes we have discussed over the last couple of years are probably more urgent than ever right now. I want this to be a discussion. I try to keep this presentation relatively short, so afterwards we have a lot of time for thoughts, for comments, for questions. And I also will invite my team members afterwards to come in, because again, this is, as Doc has mentioned, it's kind of a new era. There's a lot of changes coming ahead, and again, a lot of questions. So everyone who's here from my team, also there's people from the foundation, please feel invited to answer questions that come up later. I think the first thing, or the best thing to start with, is again, a bit of an idea what these breakthrough products are and what is expected from those who signed up for it. Probably some of you have heard this already or a few times, but maybe not everyone, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page here. So these breakthrough products are called breakthrough products because they're expected to break through the dominance of currently widely grown varieties and replace them. They're supposed to be varieties with proven on-farm yield and profitability gains that motivate small-scale commercial producers to adopt them along with farming practices for optimized yield and profit. So what does that exactly mean in detail? First of all, it means that for these products to have really substantial impact, they are only going to focus and target major market segments through carefully selected high-impact product pipelines. Again, they're supposed to have large impact and to replace some of the currently most important, most dominant grown varieties. And to have this impact, to claim this impact, well, we need some focus. We need focus on major markets where this impact can be achieved. A second component of this impact is that these products should achieve, and this is defined, and those, again, of those of you who have signed up for this know that already, at least 25% gain in terms of productivity or value improvement over current leading varieties. And they should be recognizably differentiated from the replacement variety. They should actually show an improvement that is very obvious to the farmers. And through that, well, they will ensure high offtake potential to support increased farmer income and leverage strong market demand to drive rapid adoption. Long story short, what's expected here is through focusing on major market segments, on high impact segments with variety that show huge gains, substantial gains in productivity and value. This value is or becomes obvious to the farmers, and they adopt it, and they become the leading varieties of the markets. Now, how can this be achieved? Well, obviously, you know all how to improve varieties. There's different ways to improve varieties: climate resilience or adoption traits, such as drought, heat, flooding tolerance, pest, disease resistances, quality attributes, agronomic characteristics, you name it. The reason why I'm showing this list of traits is there are two important things. First, again, there's various traits, various ways, various traits to optimize varieties. What becomes important now is that we don't try to cover all of them. We need to figure out what's important and really focus on them. Because focus, prioritization is one of the key tools that we need to adopt to make sure we get these huge gains. The second thing is the list of traits here we see is different, or some of them may be different in terms of their genetic architecture. Some of the pest and disease resistance traits may be major genes, monogenic trait that we can quickly exploit and get in our population or products through something like backcrossing. Other traits, such as quantitative drought, heat, flooding tolerances, well, they require a different approach to breeding. And again, population improvement comes in here. So there's two things we need to focus on. We need to focus which are the traits that give us these quick gains and how do we breed for them. And this focus, again, is extremely important because what's expected is that these breakthrough products should be validated within 5 years, and substantial replacement of dominant varieties should follow within 5 to 10 years, depending on the crop. So as breeders, as people who work in plant breeding, we know that 5 years is not a lot of time, and that we need to be very efficient and very quick here to deliver on these requests. So how do we do that? I mentioned already that prioritization is going to be one or probably the key, well, the key method, the key idea we need to adopt and follow. You have heard Michael probably talking about prioritization already in some of the meetings he has given about the changes. I hope you were around yesterday for Dorcas' presentation of target product profiles. And if not, I highly recommend that you look at the videos because, again, prioritization and definition of very targeted target product profiles is going to be key for here. Prioritization is about maximizing impact with the existing resources. So what we have at the moment, what is available, we really need to make sure we're making the most of it. In the past, the CGIAR has been investing in too many traits, in too many pipelines, market segments, and countries, and spreading those efforts thin is not really the best way to deliver breakthrough products. Well, you know, a company like Apple, they have one or two products. They have the iPhone and they have their MacBooks. Car companies, they focus on a few models that they assume will be successful in the market. The CGIAR in the past, or many of the breeding programs, have tried to serve everyone. And unfortunately, this doesn't work. It takes resources away, it takes focus away from very important major market segments, and makes it harder to achieve fast and high gains in those segments, which are really, really important. The breeding teams report needing for more funding to boost genetic gain. That always has been a problem. Well, funding has been a problem, money has been a problem. We know that in the public environment we're working in, it's hard to plan long term. But what we now know, what is certain, is that budgets have been drastically cut, and we're probably not going to get more funding. We're going to get less funding. So we need to be very efficient here. And again, prioritization is going to be key. Now, the idea that we need more funding to boost genetic gain, this is not optimization. This is scaling. And you probably wouldn't or shouldn't scale any kind of procedure unless you can be sure it's optimized. So again, prioritization, optimization is going to be key here. With the funding we have, with the resources we have, we need to make sure we maximize gain within those resources, those possibilities we have. And this prioritization must come from the crop leads. Neither the breeding teams, neither B4T can drive this. It's up to crop leads, to the centers, to define what are the targets and where the direction of breeding should go. What, however, we can do and what we still will do, like we did in the past, we can provide support here. We can help you to guide the process of prioritization, provide realistic assessments of your current breeding strategies, of your target product profiles. And again, the way how we provide support has not changed. And this is what you hopefully will see here. I have shown this a couple of times. Some of my colleagues have shown this a couple of times. This figure has been around for a couple of years. It was already there since I came. It's still one of my favorite figures. And again, I think it shows that it's still valid, and the way we look at breeding and the way we provide support has not changed. For today, it is again probably the key slide, because I want to look with you quickly at what are the things we now need to focus on and to prioritize in our way we do breeding, and we try to deliver these substantial gains for breakthrough products. If you remember the definition of breakthrough products, that a part of it, or a very important component actually of it, is that we need to replace currently dominant varieties. Well, the first thing is you have to know your target. You need to know what are the currently dominant varieties and what it is, what farmers appreciate, what you need to build up on and improve. And this is very important to drive your target product profile. Again, I'm not going to go into detail here because Dorcas has given an excellent overview yesterday, but we know that target product profiles now, they need to be feasible, impactful, and in demand. Feasible in terms of the numbers of traits we can address at the same time. And if we overload our target product profiles with too many traits, well, we're probably not going to make gain in any or many of them, and they need to be impactful and in demand to be able to replace the currently breeding varieties. Now, the other ways that are in the toolbox, I would say, for you to make sure you can achieve these gains. One of them is looking and optimizing the breeding schemes. Again, prioritization, optimization. And this is basically what we've done in the past, trying to help you to optimize things like the number of parents, crosses, genotypes per cross, implementing selection indices, shortening cycle time, and so on, up to genomic selection. Again, this has not changed. This will not change. But what now becomes, maybe for some programs, a strategy that might be considered is changing the breeding system or changing the product. There have been discussions about moving from something like OPVs to hybrid systems. Cassava is an example where also moving from a currently clonal system to an inbred hybrid system, there might be advantages coming with this. So changing the breeding system to a more efficient system, or to a system that gives you a one-step jump in gain, might be a way for you to get these 25%. Trait discovery and deployment, also nothing new, but still very important. And what's especially important looking at this 5-year timeline is that depending on where you are at the moment, this could give you some short-term gains. This is also why I have underlined deployment here, because again, we don't have much time. Trait discovery takes a lot of time. You probably won't have the time you won't manage in 5 years to screen a lot of material, to identify potential major genes, to develop markers, interpret them and use them. But if you already have some genes there, well, make sure you can stack them as quickly as possible. These short-term gains can be quite efficient and contribute. But there's a problem. They're fast, but they're static, which means once those major genes we're interested in, once they're fixed, well, we get our potential jump in performance, for example, due to disease resistance. But then this is where it stops. And there's only a limited number of traits where we really can find major genes with substantial impact. And there's only a limited number of genes for these traits. And this is why, again, population improvement is and will always remain your bread and butter of breeding. This is where you get your long-term gains from. This is what is Unfortunately, a bit slower, but it is sustainable. And again, well, we will not stop breeding after 5 years. These 5 years, or these 5 to 10 years, they then set your current target for putting products out there, but you want to provide products afterwards. You're not stopping after 5 to 10 years. So population improvement remains important, and you have to balance these in a reasonable way to make sure you can reach these gains now, but you're also able to provide constant improvement in the future. And this continuous improvement here now works long term because it is or it worked through the accumulation of a very, very high number of beneficial genes. Most traits, if not all of them, have at least a quantitative component. And this is what you address and what you improve through focusing on your best parents, crossing them, and recombining the resources for good performance, the good alleles in there. The exploitation of major genes obviously may not only happen here and be addressed through an introgression into, well, your breeding population. You may also, depending on what crop you're working with, use introgression into finalized products. And again, we have the same characteristics here. It's short-term gains and it's very fast but static. But again, if you have very promising material already in the pipeline that you just need to push over the finishing line, and you can get in 1 or 2 or 3 major genes through backcrossing, well, there's a big advantage already. And again, it is very important that you consider for short and long-term gains of your product, of your program, all these components of how you can address improvement in breeding programs. Now, having that said, and having made my emphasis, my point on population improvement, you can also see from the requests that the foundation makes, despite their request for product, their focus on products now, that they still appreciate the urgent need for population improvement. Well, I obviously cannot talk for the foundation, and again, if representatives of the foundation are here, they're invited to comment on this later as well. But from the investment priorities that you will find in the grants, in the proposals you're currently working on, you will see that continuous improvement of breeding programs to maximize genetic gain per year and per dollar spent is still a very, very important component that plays a major role. And in terms of population improvement, there is still a strong focus on minimized cycle length, which means close populations, because we only can minimize cycle length if we find the best parents within our population as quickly and as accurately as possible and recombine them. Now, doing this increases your chances of better product, of finding a better product in your breeding population. Going very fast, going very accurate, having a cycle time of, I don't know, maybe even only a year or 2 years does not mean that you have to disseminate a new product or identify a new product every year to every 2 years and flood the market again. It just means that you want to improve, or that you want to accumulate the beneficial genes as quickly as possible. And even if you go, again, very fast and have 1 cycle per year, you can still wait 2-3 years until you identify the best candidates in this population and move them on to product development. Now, in terms of product development, there's also clear priorities defined in terms of how to make sure that we can identify the best products in our testing pipelines. Now, one of this is to increase heritability or repeatability in multi-environmental trials. for on-farm testing. And part of this is also measuring and monitoring genetic gain, which should be happening at that stage where we have identified the best product and they're testing them in the TPE. We're testing them on farms. And that these two components, and that especially population improvement remains important, is shown in the fact that progress towards these goals will be monitored. It will be monitored regularly, and it will be monitored through the tools that we have introduced in the past. Those 4 tools, or this set of 4 tools has emerged in the past. The breeding portal and program management platform, PMP, where you document your markets, where you document your target product profiles, where we make sure together that the highest impact markets are targeted with the right products. There's also, the request to use BioFlow for standard analytics, because these analytics will give us information about how efficient breeding is. Heritabilities as such that we have here, measuring of genetic gain, genetic variances, and so on. And this requires that we're using databases, EBS, BMS, BreedBase, so 3 that we've been working with and discussing for a while. And continuous improvement is, like it is now, be supported by you guys putting your breeding schemes in the breeding scheme manager, so we can come in and discuss with you what are your questions, maybe point out some of the opportunities for improvement. And again, the way we're gonna provide support here, we're gonna provide breeding program optimization support. This has not changed and it will not change. We need to make sure all the basics are in place. And again, market segment identification, target product profiles, having the right targets in terms of what's your reference varieties, good data management, having a clear and well-structured breeding scheme. These are still going to be the foundations for us to work on individual improvement steps. Now, again, with those 5 years we have in front of us where we have to make very, very quick gains. Optimally, you should be here already, where we're using the most advanced tools, where all those basics are in place, and where we are able to use genomic selection for very rapid recycling and for optimized testing schemes. You might now argue that this does not cover the trait introgression part, because the trait introgression part has not really been the focus of our work in the past. Nevertheless, it's really important. I would argue trait introgression also comes somewhere here in the middle. For this, likewise, you need to make sure all the basics are in place and you have optimized the way you evaluate material and you have optimized your germplasm, your resource management. Now, this is all not new, and we have already available, I just want to point out again, most of you will be aware of that, we have available these archetypes for implementing rapid cycle genomic selection for driving population improvement very, very quickly. And we have developed these archetypes, these strawmen for hybrid programs, for line programs, for clonal programs. They are available online, and they have been developed together with, a couple of guys from our team, but with also very knowledgeable people from the industry, from universities, and also representatives from the foundation, which again, I think emphasizes that despite the request for these breakthrough products, population improvement will still play a major role and is, again, the core methodology for you to ensure long-term genetic gains. Now, yes, first, breakthrough products will be validated in 5 years. This at least holds true for those of you who signed up for it. This is what you have to deliver. But then again, then we move on. And how we move on is with a current and future focus on population improvement. So that's all from my side. Thanks for the attention. As I said, this was rather short, so we have a lot of time for you now to ask questions and to have a discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, for that good presentation. I will open the floor now for discussion, questions, concerns. Please raise your hand. I'm checking the chat here. So the floor is open. Do you have any questions for Christian? Any comments? Any? Okay. In the meantime, as you're thinking about those, I will open the chat here. There have been some discussion going on in the chat. Okay, Gary says the Gates Foundation fully agrees with the title of this talk. Sean has mentioned that population improvement is a slow but steady approach. It's road tested and reliable. However, depending on the breeding system, just a moment. I think my chat is skipping around.
Okay, I can continue. So Sean says population improvement is a slow but steady approach. It's road tested and reliable. However, depending on the breeding system and delivery timeline, it may not be the fastest route to breakthrough products. It offers low risk and medium reward, but the outcomes are generally predictable. In contrast, higher risk strategies may offer higher rewards and potentially lead to breeding product faster. But of course, our goal should be to make data-driven decisions, not just chase speed. Completely agree on this. And again, I think everybody here is aware of the challenges that come with a timeline, and that if you're starting now, if you want to deliver a product, a breakthrough product, or start testing, validating a breakthrough product within 5 years, and you have not started to improve your population, you have nothing in the pipeline currently, and you have no quick gain solutions such as changing your breeding system or putting in a couple of major genes, well, then population improvement may not be the method that gives you these 25% within 5 years. We have to be honest about that. But again, breeding doesn't stop after 5 years. And the request for improved products doesn't stop after 5 years. So it might be, and it will depend on the crop, it will depend on the current status, the current stage of your program. It may be necessary to focus in the next few years highly on the quick gains. But it's important to not neglect population improvement again, because we continue afterwards, and it still is, for a lot of traits, the only way how we can improve them in the future. And although, again, we can get gains in terms of yield, for example, through major resistance traits under disease pressure, yield is highly quantitative, and the only way to improve it constantly long-term is through population improvement.
Yeah, the next question, Chris, or comment, this is from Gary. There are not alternative pathways. Population improvement is simply improvement in additive breeding value. This must be integrated with the deployment of high-value native or edited haplotypes. Both are required. It's pretty rare that a 25% yield gain and differentiating market-facing traits do not require both breeding value improvement and large effect haplotypes. So yeah, Chris, go ahead. Do you have any comment on that? But I think qualified what you say.
Nothing. Let's just continue with the comments maybe.
Okay, yeah. Sean, I think there's a lot of institutional inertia in the CGIAR system, and it can be difficult to push back against the mindset of this is how it's always been done. One key challenge is finding the right balance between making decisions that deliver gradual, steady progress, which is often expected and accepted, and taking calculated risks that, at least in theory, could lead to step changes in performance. I also believe we are not fully tapping into the potential of our current genetic resources. And while this talk focuses on genetic solutions, that last point isn't necessarily something that can be solved solely through genetics.
Okay, so while screening quickly through the comments, I see Gary shared a lot of comments. So I'm wondering, Gary, do you just want to jump in and maybe summarize or make your comments rather than us reading every single word?
Sure. Yeah,
Thank
sorry
you.
about that. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, for some reason I can never raise my hand on Zoom. Yeah, no, I guess two critical points. One is, indeed, the timeline is very ambitious. So I think there's two basic ways to think about it. We hope that most programs are in a position to show that 5 years from now, they have some materials that have been, tested in multi-location trials that are performing substantially better than current dominant varieties in the system, right? So that means likely you are planning the crosses for those breakthrough products now. It doesn't mean they have to be fully validated through on-farm testing, but we need to have some evidence that we're on track. So and we think it's ambitious but reasonable that we should achieve these products and have them started in the dissemination pathway within 10 years. Many of the programs that the foundation supports are working in systems, where farmers are using varieties that were released 20, 30, even 40 years ago. Now, some aren't, so for example, in wheat in South Asia, there's quite fast varietal turnover. In maize in sub-Saharan Africa, at least in Eastern and Southern Africa, in some markets, there's been pretty fast varietal turnover, but in others, in many rice markets, many other crops, farmers are growing varieties that have been in use for a generation or more. And it's those varieties where we have to show it's those markets where we have to show gain. And if we've been, making progress over the last 10 years or so, then, we should be a large part of the way there. In some markets, we may not be replacing these varieties. I think, as Randall pointed out, if there is some, basic trait, quality trait or production trait or disease resistance trait that we're missing, and that will require, a fix with a particular, a particular gene or haplotype. But we need to plan the pathway there, and we can't lose ground on breeding value, on additive breeding value, which is the target of population improvement, while we make that fix. We have to, generally speaking, we're not going to get where we need to go by taking a 10 or 15-year-old variety and incorporating one or two large effect haplotypes into it. So we feel at the foundation that we can make substantial progress towards these very ambitious goals by building upon the accelerated cycles, the rapid trait introgression approaches, and the high accuracy testing that you've all worked very hard, many with support from the foundation, to implement over the last 5 to 7 years. Now, what we may have not put sufficient emphasis on the idea of ensuring that the product concept is going to really be attractive, provide a very strong value proposition to farmers, to millers, to consumers, in order to incentivize adoption. There are some markets where we're simply not, providing traits. Often these would be quality traits where that the market requires. And so we have to be really careful now about saying, okay, this is what the market is going to need in 10 years. So for example, there has been a shift in the rice quality requirements driven by heavy importation of rice from South and Southeast Asia, in West Africa, Central Africa, towards aromatic varieties. So the programs serving those markets need to quickly, and they're doing this, they need to quickly get aroma into their high breeding value germplasm, into their germplasm with high agronomic performance. If they don't have it, these improved varieties won't be adopted. So, but they also won't be adopted if they're not substantially higher yielding than what farmers are growing. In that market, varieties that were released 20 years ago, 25 years ago, are very important still, as in many. So, it's not an either or. The push for breakthrough products doesn't mean, we go back to making crosses, that are not informed by strong data on breeding value of the parents. We can't afford to make wrong crosses. We can't afford not to be testing with high accuracy in order to get to where we need to go. So, what we need to do now is build on the progress that we've made with, strong focus and planning on delivering these products.
Thank you, Gary, for the extensive response and for emphasizing again the position and the perspective of the foundation. I think, Agre, that this answered at least somewhat your question, what were the criteria used to setting the number of years, or in general, the criteria that are underlying those requests for breakthrough products. If not, if there's still specific questions, please jump in. Also, another question here was how to balance out during selection of products with must-have and would like, or probably nice to have traits required for specific market segments. So, as I said, the current varieties which are dominating, they're defining, or to a large extent, they're defining your target. These are the ones that you have to be better than those to replace them. And the traits that are requested again is yield and another trait that significantly differentiates your product, your potential breakthrough product from what's currently there. So there has to be a very, very, very strong focus, especially in the next 5 to 10 years, on these must-have traits, because these must-have traits, they define the success of your product. Would-like traits, well, again, if you were there yesterday for Dorcas' presentation, every additional trait that you put in your target product profile makes it harder to improve your must-have traits, or a large number of must-have traits makes it harder to improve all of them at the same time. So it's very important here to focus on those few traits which really will define the success of your product, and probably put the priority of would-like traits, if they're not there anyways, if you don't have just a lucky draw and they pop up in a good way, to put them a bit well, at the lower rank of your priority. However, Peter is here, and Peter, sorry for calling you out, but since you're the one who has worked most on the target product profiles, maybe you want to add to this and make some comments on must-have traits, must-have and nice-to-have traits, etc.
No, you're absolutely right, Christian. I mean, we've got to focus in on the essential traits that we need to improve in order to create a product that's going to replace the products that are in farmers' fields today. And if we try to do too many essential trait improvements, we're just never going to get to that product. And so we've really got to think through and identify the essential traits that we need to improve and the essential traits that we need to maintain in any new product that we create, so that it will indeed attract farmers' attention and they will be interested in replacing the current variety that they're growing with the new product. If we try to do too much, we'll never get there. And so I think we really need to go back and look at what we have in the target product profiles, make sure that trait is really essential in the market segment that we're targeting, and then have the discussion to prioritize and make sure that whatever level of improvement that we set out to make will indeed result in a product that will be in demand by farmers, and they will replace their existing variety. So we've come a long way. I think we've got to do some work on looking at the TPPs and reviewing them and making sure that they're feasible, making sure that we've got a limited number of essential improved traits, making sure that we have high throughput assays for each of those essential improved traits that we've identified, so we can run an efficient and productive breeding program to get these products created, evaluated and positioned with farmers, so that there is an interest in adopting new products. So we're on the right path. We've just got to start to implement, and we've got to make some decisions and bring priority to what we're doing. If we do that, we'll be successful. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Dorcas?
Yeah, thank you all. Is there anyone else who is having challenges raising their hands and they do have a live comment? Please jump in.
Yes, please jump in. This is your opportunity to ask questions about what I understand has raised a lot of questions with, well, us around, with Gary around, and to get hopefully your answers.
I still don't see anyone speaking up. There is a lot of activity on the chat. There are a lot of comments and answers, mainly from Gary, Randy, and Sean. The team might need to follow up on. But I think at this moment, if we don't have any burning questions, this recording will be shared by Julie on our page. And if we don't have any questions or concerns or comment for Christian, I would like to. Gary, I think you are muted.
Can I make one quick comment, just in response to Peter's important comment? we have to, it's absolutely true that we have to have a laser focus on the key traits that are going to drive adoption and increase value to farmers, provide the value proposition to farmers. But one of those traits is yield. And, you know, the only way we can improve yield is to, and, you know, with a 5 or 6 year timeline from starting now, we've really got one kick at the can to make a significant yield improvement. So we have to choose parents that have very high breeding value, and that, you know, and then we have to select the progeny very accurately, and that's where all the work that you've done to improve your systems, improve your pipelines, improve your ability to select parents with high breeding value effectively. That's where it's going to pay off.
Thank you, Gary. I do not see any other comments. So,
But one last thing. I think, well, you mentioned there was a lot of interaction going on in the chat, especially between Gary, Sean, and Randy. Gary repeated here what he said. I think what Randy and Sean said could be also, again, somewhat summarized as, well, there are different ways to approach breeding. All of them are important, but it's becoming very important now for whatever crop you're working with. What is the current status of your germplasm, of your material? Which are the right tools and the most pressing tools for now to achieve these gains which are requested for the breakthrough products, while not ignoring that all of the tools are important and all of the tools have to be considered. Randy, also, I'm mentioning this because that might be of interest for others as well. You said, I know that there are no experienced industry breeders or marketing managers in your list of editors contributors. I assume this is referring to the list of the archetypes, and that might have slipped through the net, but you see here, there were a lot of participants in a meeting we had where we discussed and developed them. And you could see that there's John Hickey, that there's Brian Gardunia from Bayer, Valentin Wimmer, and there were a couple of others from KWS who joined online. And we have not industry, but, well, public breeders like Clay Sneller, like Aaron Lawrence, Jesse Rutkowski. We have Jean-Luc here. So there were a couple of actual, I would say, actual breeders involved in this as well. They might not be in the list of the editors of the document, but we all together developed the approaches we are recommending in our archetypes.
yeah, thank you, Chris.
Scientists from research.
Henry, are you making a comment? Or are you just unmuted? Okay, all right. So thank you, Chris, once again for the very nice presentation. Thank you, Gary, for providing clarity, and Peter, Sean, Randy, for all your comments, and everybody else's questions or comments. We will be sharing the recording for this meeting alongside the presentation. Just in case you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and yeah, we can have another discussion. So thank you all, and I want to wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good evening wherever you are.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Yeah.